What's up, gearheads? Today we're taking on a project that dreams are made of, restoring one of the most iconic muscle cars in American history. That's right, we're diving headfirst into the ultimate restoration of a 1970 Dodge Challenger. The car that sent shockwaves through the streets, leaving every other muscle car of its time in dirt. This machine wasn't just about going fast, it was about doing it with style, power, and a roar that could make your heart skip a beat. Whether you're an experienced restorer or a first-timer looking to bring your muscle car fantasy to life, this video is packed with pro tips, tricks, and insider knowledge. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. And please don't forget to subscribe, as it helps us to reach more gearheads. Before we start, let's take a look at what it's all about. How does it feel to get our hands on a 1970 Dodge Challenger? When Dodge realized that they were in existence in the late 60s, they understood that they had competition in the form of the Mustang and Camaro. But rather than attempt to compete directly, Dodge went even more muscular and menacing. Meeting them was the Dodge Challenger, a car of abundant muscle and the attitude to match it. It, however, arrived on the market in 1970, accompanied by different engines to choose from. For the purists, there was the 225/6, which was a sporty version of the six-cylinder car. However, for those people who desired to control the road, the Dodge provided such engines as the 383 Magnum, the 446-pack, and the 426 Hemi. What we're referring to is the possibility of a factory hot rod cranking out up to 425 horsepower, something that was inconceivable a few years back. It was not just a car, but a symbol of the showman it was heading to become after a few years. Today, we're going to do our best to resurrect one of these legends. Before one begins any restoration, he or she must have an understanding of what one is dealing with. Thus, the first step ahead of us here is assess the damage. I mean, the 1970 Challenger is a car model that has been produced more than 50 years ago, so it can in no way be in perfect condition. But hey, that is what this is all about. To ensure that everything is working fine, you'll need to take your time and ensure that you check from the bonnet to the bumper. You'll want to give the car a full inspection, from bumper to bumper. And let's face it, rust is your number one enemy here. It's hiding in the floor pans, the wheel wells, maybe even in the frame. You're gonna find it, so be prepared. Grab a flashlight, crawl under the car, and start poking around. Check the frame, the body panels, and the suspension components for any weak spots or holes that need to be patched or replaced. Pro tip, if you didn't find any rust at all, you surely missed a spot. Okay, I think that it's time to start thinking businesslike. First things first, naked it. And I don't mean just bared and strip of a few screws. We're discussing bringing this Challenger to a state where we can see its bare bones. You have to put this into your head that every single panel, screw, and wire has to be removed. Well, that's the thing, and let me tell you that organization is your friend when working on this step. It is not enough to simply put bolts into a box and let it be. If you're unsure about the origin of a particular type of rage, you may wish to bag, tag, and label everything. I assure you that the future self will thank you the next time you have to compile this colossal mess. Now comes one of the most rewarding and challenging parts of any restoration project: to seek genuine rolls. If you're painting for restoration purposes, you should refrain from using reproduction parts. Whether it's listed as genuine parts, original EM parts, or NOS, these are the best to use, but they're the hardest to come across. We can think of a few alternatives. eBay or other similar online auction sites are something like a treasure hunter's paradise, as long as one knows exactly what he's hunting for. Last but not least, the local junkyards, and don't ever underestimate them. Besides, swap meets are an excellent opportunity to meet like-minded people and car enthusiasts and maybe get what you've been looking for. So if you want to take it even further, you should connect with classic car enthusiasts. You can find groups and pages around the Dodge Challenger, and there are even forums to turn up for tips on where and how to find rare pieces. Just remember, the only thing that the reader must do is wait. In other words, patience is highly valued. It may be a long process finding that one exact part that you've been looking for, but when you have it, it's like a treasure. All right, let's talk about bodywork. This is where the Challenger starts to come back to its prime self. But it is also one of the most time-consuming tasks and requires maximum effort from the employees. The first thing you've got to do is cut out the rust. No, don't just sand it down. Eradicate it, because it mustn't be there in the first place. Once the rust is gone, then one can weld in new metal, and that is when you start making those panels look as good as new again. That's one of the few parts of the restoration that, if you have no idea how to weld, you should go out and get some professional help. There's nothing that would be as heartbreaking as having a bad weld once you've done all the work over it, and when that's accomplished, then you'll immediately move to some serious sanding. The preparation of the body and other parts of a car for painting is not the easiest of tasks, but any hour spent here will be worth it in the end. This is where all of that raw power comes in, and reassembling the engine is where the miracle occurs. If your Challenger rolled off the assembly line with a 383, a 440, or the iconic 426 Hemi, then you'll know that the heart of this automobile is here. New lip, rings, gaskets, and maybe better performance. The key here is precision. Don't rush this part. Every measurement has to be perfect. Get your torque specs right. Make sure everything's balanced, and when you're done, that engine will purr like a tiger or roar like a lion, depending on how hard you press that pedal. And speaking of power, if you're looking to squeeze every bit of horsepower out of that engine, now's the time to think about some upgrades. New camshafts, intake manifolds, and maybe even a supercharger if you're feeling adventurous. All that power is not an advantage if you can't manage it. This is where your suspension, brakes, and steering come in. It is high time someone replace such bad-looking and worn-out parts so that this thing can handle like a charm. New shocks, new bushings, and contemporary-style disc brakes, because you need to be able to slow down as quickly as you're trying to speed up. Oh, and never mind the steering. What good is power if you can't turn this rally hulk around a corner without feeling like your steering wheel is attached to a tank's wheel? Now, let's step inside. It also indicates that as much attention should be paid to the interior of the Challenger as should be paid to the engine. This is your cockpit, where you will spend most of your time driving the car. Should one preserve the design in which the building was constructed or incorporate some advances of present-day construction to make the building comfortable? Well, I'm authentic in a way that I prefer making as few changes to a vehicle as possible and using modern possibilities only occasionally, such as increased audio or insulation. The seats have to be redone. The dashboard will have to be reconstructed, and the wiring of those vintage meters will also require attention. No Hurst shifter could be overlooked if you're lucky enough to have your Challenger with a manual transmission. Ah, the paint job. This is where you want to see the Challenger stand out like a masterpiece. If you've always wanted to get a classic plum-crazy purple or any other color of your choice, then this is where you can make a difference. In case you are not experienced enough, then ensure that you hire a professional to do the work. Quality painting is always important in making a difference between an ordinary restoration and an excellent one. The time and effort that goes into scraping off old paint, applying a new coat, taping doodads, and the like will be all worth it when finally that new layer of paint gets its full day's sun. It's time. It is high time that after several months of intense work, we ought to reassemble the Challenger. Now transformation happens. Every bolt, every panel, every piece of trim, everything that is part of this car comes together in this final step. This is where you'll watch the car being created and come to life, then be shipped to its new owner. Take your time here, don't rush it. Things cannot be going your way. Now is not the time to start taking shortcuts. Slowly but surely, the Challenger will get back on its toes and will be ready for a spin. And now, the climax of any car person's life or the first startup. Finally, after a long time of hard work, aggression, stress, pain, and most especially swollen fists, it's time to turn that key. But my friends, I tell you, when that engine starts, I assure you this, you get a shiver down the back. But when you step on the gas for the first time on that freshly rebuilt engine, you surely will know why that project was undertaken. That first drive, it's like nothing else. It's neither heavy nor awkward. The engine growls and you're suddenly transported back to 1970. Want to see more restoration projects like this one? Subscribe and hit that bell for more muscle car madness every week. There you have it. From a rusty relic to a street-eating monster, the 1970 Dodge Challenger is back where it belongs. It takes time, patience, and a whole lot of love, but if you've got the passion, you too can bring a legend back to life. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Give it a thumbs up if you like the video, and please make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss our next episode in the Muscle Car Vault.